myself in a different world, wandering from word to word of Cosmere, a sprite dipping across the plain like spun sugar, sitting and studying the trees of Fablehaven, waiting for someone to stop by and enjoy the milk dish, perching on a mountaintop over Nern, watching the wolves hunt unhindered until I had lost all track of time. And when I was finished, I found myself in my room.
Madison. Everything inside the small room is yellow. The knitted bedspread, the walls, the vase of plastic sunflowers in the corner, staring at me as I stare at me in the mirror. Tracing the outlines of my face in graphite without looking, my hand translating the history of my eyes, the expression of my name in hard-boned jaw and lilting lips. It's too warm for me to think, so I don't.
Jane Ann. Her conception is a rainstorm, fists clenched to trap the mud that runs through her fingers. Her joints crack open, creating sparks, scorching a path across her rib cage that pools in her sternum, and the valley splits open. She wishes people knew what it means to be ocean, vast and endless and terrifying, pressure building until the words clenched in her teeth evaporate, leaving salt in her lungs.
Julian. I found myself looking in my digital screen's reflection, searching for the missing puzzle. I hear the boom. I'm familiar with this sound. This is the sweet sound of drums reverberating, speakers shaking like tectonic plates at the click of a pad. You are my voice when I am mute, when I have no words to express. You are my tropical island when there is no escape, when I can't get away.
Natalie. I met her in the afterglow of summer. Pint-sized and red against the gilded blue of dusk, she was fighting her bedtime, dancing barefoot outside to music she could not understand, rejoicing always in the existence of this moment and every moment to follow. She tells me about the songs she sings to ladybugs and little boys who will not listen. She opens little fists, and I find her hands are full of leaves she plucked from dandelions, and I worry she will pluck herself away too. That her name will only sound like a grand finale, something without defense or belonging. I want her to know that she is called celebration, that she is in each summer equinox sunset as it sinks from tangerine to everlasting pink. That I see her still in wildfires, roaring red without peace.
Abby. The stars are messy tonight, shifting in shapes and letters, alphabet soup. The cicadas sing in the yard in strange harmony that is strangled and broken. Sometimes I swear I could drink the jumbled sky, unhinge my jaw and pour it in. Maybe then I could spit out a worthwhile turn of phrase. Right now, my world is too muddied with words for me to learn how to use them. My name is rebirth, finding identity in the sounds that slide off my tongue. I can be reborn right here in my front yard, in the crying of cicadas and the blur of night. Maybe if I rip myself inside out, I can find something to say that makes sense.
Mina. I see myself across the street and wait for the walking sign to flash white, and wait, and wait, and wait. My name means mine in Yiddish, and I've always wanted to ask whose I was. Am I the kind of mine that can be yours? Give me space and fresh air. Give me solitude and wait. I am green, not with envy, but with things that bloom. And when I am alone, I can hear the earth awakening. I don't always have the words.
Mackenzie. Has a whisper ever been heard that was so distant? My dreams come in waves of blue, images wrapped in ripples of indigo and navy. I always find myself swimming in torrents of phantom thoughts, gifts from a strange and cold universe, like the dust of a supernova. When has something existed that one cannot see, yet is beautiful and hideous at the same time?
Emily. I found myself past the thorn bushes that sprouted in my head at 14. Standing there, honey-eyed, feet planted, hurt soaked through to dermis, but smiling. I will name this stranger after something familiar, something vaguely remembered and crystallized to amber. I will channel this now not-so-stranger's unbridled voice into something resembling childhood REM cycles. I'll tell you I'm as readable as a book if you'll just crack open the cover. Crack me open and I'll shed this powdered mold and brim with nectar. Like cantaloupe, like rain rising and falling with expectancy. Like a hazel eye shimmering calm from unread skin. Always open, glowing gold.
Colton. I held my hair to the Zippo as the strands peeled out between my fingertips. Stark white as they blistered, long after what was once brown became black, became ash. I didn't flinch as the flame died. I felt nothing but the fire as I watched it flicker-kiss the skin again and again. And as it blazed, I watched it screw-dry my pain away. I felt my bones burst into sirens. I didn't register the change, but I remembered the fogging, cerebral rearview mirrors as he tapped on my window. The fear as the steering wheel lets go and my hands fall to my lap. And as my breath shows in the glass, I forget the question he asks. Clementine. I think back now as things are leaving me. The day we met, you were red, but not really red. More orange, and somehow not really orange. It was just your accent, the way it surrounded you, and I wanted it to surround me. I wanted it to eat me, but it always left me wanting more. We talked, and you said you'd kiss me because if there was no other reason, I'd never kissed anyone before. If anyone has ever seen that movie about sunshine, the Jim Carrey one, they know what this feels like. Because it feels like a memory that you forgot, but still somehow remember. That you know, like holding on with your fingernails. The wind is picking up, and it's in your hair, and it's in your eyes, and it's raining, and then it's gone. Like a leaf, like a candle in the wind. That summer you were Benny, and I was a Jet. You were Susie, and I was Elton, and I guess I get to have an old gold Chevy and a place of my own. A place to call home. On the beach, where you and I slipped out and skinny dipped every night, while the stars were blue and the night was cloudy, and the house creaked and settled, and you and I sat close on the futon. It was torn down last time I saw. The yellow was rotten. The flowers were dead, wilted dandelions. But they sat perfectly in the rubble. In that vase behind the glass window, the one that didn't shatter, the brick made a cage, the wood made a box, the glass made a bottle, and I can't get in. They move faster now, the memories, like I'm lying on my back on a bed somewhere. White linen and silk, it rolls over you like milky tides. It rolled over you as we talked over the phone till it got too hot to hold. And I can't see anything but you walking. Wet summer grass stuck between your toes and on the bottoms of your feet because you don't have your shoes on. Hanging on the tips of your fingers and a hand slung over your shoulder. The laces are tangled in your bleached hair that's washed clean of the color that was there before the rain. And I forget that it was raining. But before your mom pulled up in that old-ass minivan she drove, your shirt was Clementine. I forget how much I looked for that minivan after that. I forget when I forgot to keep looking.
Rain as love letter. One day, cloud cover stopped covering, and suddenly I could breathe sweet. It was so simple all this time, and I laughed, a chest full of honeysuckle dewdrops, when I realized the missing ingredient had been sugar.
In my dreams every night, I walk with someone I've never met. He holds my hand as we stroll through old neighborhoods, and he tells me stories about all the ways he loved my great-grandmother, of the first time he held my infant father in his arms, of the way he cried at his daughter's wedding. He reads me letters from his younger years, when he worked nights and his wife worked days. Each morning he would leave notes out on the kitchen table, assuring her that she is loved, that he thought of her, that he's okay.
Up there, her silver embraces me, and I arc, floating, like loose balloon strings, like honey stains, like it's not so scary anymore.
When we get caught in storms on our walks, he wraps me in his arms and assures me that every time it rains, it's just him reminding me that I'm loved. I'm sending kisses for your cheeks, he says. When raindrops tap on your window, it's just the sound of the letters I write to you. There are nights when I walk alone through empty streets, always looking for traces of someone I've only met in sleep. When storms come, I let the rain swallow me up in its embrace, trying to read the raindrops as they fall onto my outstretched arms.
Overcast is just where she stays when she isn't running down my window to tell me about her day.
The bowerbird. The first thing to go missing was a penny. It had been in its place on the dresser for years. The edges were chipped, the coin old and tarnished. Time buried it in a pile of nickels and dimes, and when the other coins found their way into a pocket a week later, no one noticed the missing piece. The next to go was a sock. A left sock, to be exact. One with a dark gray toe and white everything else. There was a hole spreading across the heel, and the elastic no longer held on to ankles, so no one gave it much thought when they were unable to find it after the next wash. Its partner simply found its way to a bag of misfits, destined to be a rag for polishing or dusting. After that were broken hair ties and crooked earring backs, bottle caps and collar stays, a bit of pencil lead that had been too short to write with anymore, and a money clip wedged between couch cushions, shards of glass that had been lost beneath the kitchen counter. Then came the ring, bright and shiny, resting on the vanity. That was when they noticed. They scrambled, turning out jewelry boxes and drawers. He paced, ran his hands through his hair, asked her why couldn't he just keep up with it. And she would point to the vanity with pressed lips and eyes on her husband, whisper sorry, as if it was all her fault.
Love inanimate. AK-47. She never put bullets in him. It was too intimate. She had seen him from across the room amid the SAR-80s and SR-3s and had immediately been drawn to him. Drawn to the way the cold metal raised goosebumps on her skin as she ran her hand across the barrel. The pressure of the trigger against her fingertips, begging to be pulled. She had watched the old woman behind the counter lazily load the chamber and felt dirty, hating that this stranger didn't seem to understand that she needed to be gentle. With every forceful thrust of ammunition being shoved into him, she felt him die a little inside. She cried when she got home, and as she held him, she promised never to put him through that again, never to remind him of what he had endured. Instead, she made do with the bullets that were already inside of him, 30 shots. She would wait as long as she could, letting the pressure build until she couldn't take it any longer, and she would fire, letting the sudden release knock her back. The first time she went to a shooting range, but the passion that overtook her after the first shot forced her to go somewhere more secluded. Now she drives to the woods. There was a clearing she'd been going to ever since she was a little girl. It was out of earshot from any campground, and she was the only person that knew how to find it. It was surrounded by sycamore trees, and in the early morning, mist would roll in from a nearby stream. Every time they came here, he was one bullet lighter. As the sun began to rise, she would point him in no particular direction, languidly caressing every part of him. Starting at the barrel, she would make her way towards the decorative scope, never worrying about smudging the glass. She would wrap her hands around the magazine, reveling in the feeling of her body heat transferring into him. Finally, her fingers would land on the trigger. She would wait until the last possible moment before firing, her breath coming out in shaky clouds. Everything was silent, except for the echo of his scream. She let the kickback knock her to the ground, where laying next to him, she would undress. She ran her shaky hands up and down her body, leaving smears of black powder on her skin. In the afterglow, they would listen to the meadowlark. They could never stay long, for fear the dewy grass would cause him to rust. She would go to work, knowing he was in the car, waiting for her, knowing the proof of his love still coated her thighs. One day, she decided she wanted to show him off. She took him into her trembling hands and held him close to her chest as they stepped outside together for the first time. They walked down the street, ignoring the whispers and stares. They were beautiful. As they neared downtown, they heard police sirens and stopped, their grip on each other tightening. Suddenly, police were running towards them, and she tried to run towards home, but she was knocked to the ground, a knee pressed into her back. She gasped for air as handcuffs bit into her wrists. She was pulled away from where she had been protecting him, leaving him on the ground, motionless, vulnerable. She heard a muffled scream before realizing it was her own. She tried to crawl towards him, but was knocked down once again, tears blurring her vision as she watched him walk out of her life forever.
My body as a swimming pool. I have cracked open my sternum for you. I've hollowed my chest and painted it blue, filled it with water, chlorined and clear, made myself ready to drown you, my dear. So dip in your toe or just sit idly by, splash the blush on my cheeks and watch as they dry. Sink into your waist, feel me cool on your skin. Relinquish control as you wade deeper in. Once you're fully submerged, darling, open an eye. Bear witness to tensions and tides as they rise. Blow open-mouthed bubbles, find out how they taste. Be wary of pieces of heart I've misplaced. Stretch out in the crook of my arm to sunbathe, my skin a lawn chair, each hair a sun ray. Make umbrellas of my fancies, pool toys of my need. Backstroke my ego with increasing speed. Or lovely, get out. Towel off in great haste. Shut the pool gate, curse your time that I waste. Leave me uncovered, unskimmed, and raw to the night. Let me lonely to face the vanishing light. But know that I'm ready and will always be. Tell me how to love you, how best you like me. I will be carousel, meadow, or backseat with ease. You can break me into whatever you please.
Zelda. She taught me how to swim. It was 1918, and we had just graduated from high school. It was the hottest summer I could remember the year I met her. The air was thick with mosquitoes, and there was barely any point in going to the lake. It was so humid, it was like you were walking through water everywhere you went. but the sun was hot and harsh, and we had nothing better to do. It was June, and I had just barely turned 18. My sister, Meredith, had dragged me down to the lake with her and her friends because she wasn't allowed to leave the house unless we were together. I couldn't swim, didn't own a swimsuit, and so I was left sitting on the boardwalk while Meredith went off and chattered with her friends on the other side of the water, dipping their feet into the tepid, murky ripples. I sat with my legs crossed on the peeling wood, getting a few little splinters in my thighs. I didn't have anything to do, so I watched the people swimming and milling around. There was a little boy, about 2 or so, chasing what must have been his older brother along the rocky sand. They were both laughing, and every time the toddler would grab his brother's shirt or leg, the little boy would laugh in delight and the chase would start all over again. Hey there. There was a girl walking down the boardwalk towards me. She had the sweetest accent I had ever heard. It was like mine, deep Alabama, but it had a sort of grace to it. I looked around and saw her there in a long white sundress, her curly blonde hair flying around her face. I had seen her a couple of times, in school or in town, but we had never spoken. I knew her name was Zelda. I knew that she was Judge Sayre's daughter, and that she was known around town for being a bit of a flirt. Mind if I sit? She asked me, and I shook my head, face flushed in the bright sun. The sun was blazing directly upon our faces, turning my cheeks ruddy and coating me with sweat. My dark hair was absorbing the heat like a sponge, and my neck had turned red because of it. She didn't seem to be affected by it. If anything, she seemed to glow, the harsh rays of sunlight reflecting on her hair and dress like some sort of halo. I remember she seemed like a creature of myth and mirth, even then. Without another word, she descended right next to me and slid her feet into the water. She pulled a pack of cigarettes out of her dress and tapped one out in a way that seemed almost ceremonial. She also produced a small box of matches and dragged one across the wood until she caught a spark. Then, she placed the cigarette between her ruby lips and brought the flame up to her mouth, taking a slow, deep puff and exhaling a little cloud of smoke that drifted out over the lake. You swim? She questioned absent-mindedly, letting the cigarette, which bore a perfect lipstick imprint, drift out of her mouth. I shook my head, and she offered me a puff of smoke. I tried it and went into a small coughing fit that I did my best to stifle with my hand. She rested back on her elbows with a soft sigh and said, "I don't know how you'd survive in a summer like this without knowing how to swim. Your name is Amy, right?" I nodded. "I'm Zelda." "Nice to meet you," I said, adjusting my skirt. "Amy, would you like to go for a swim?" "I can't," I muttered. "Just trust me." She took a long last drag of the cigarette and offered me another blow. I pushed it away and she dug the butt of the cigarette into the wood with a hiss. The lake wasn't very crowded. It was nearing sundown. That last dying of the light always seemed particularly bright, all orange and desperate. Zelda drew herself up next to me, pulling me to my feet as well. She slid her dress up over her head and dropped it onto the boardwalk. She looked at me expectantly. "I think I should keep mine on." She shrugged and dove into the thick, muddy water, cutting through it perfectly and creating a soft splashing sound. She was under completely for a few seconds, until her head burst through the surface of the water. She took a deep breath, and her face stretched into a beautiful but slightly crooked smile. She shone even more covered in water, nearly looked like she was on fire. "Come on in," she told me, and I dropped myself into the water cautiously, my red dress pillowing out around me. I started to sink and flail, limbs akimbo. The water was colder than I was expecting, and all the noise of the lake became muffled and distant as my head dipped underwater. I spluttered and coughed as I fought to keep my head up until I felt strong, warm arms wrapped around my waist from behind. "Like this," Zelda instructed, tracing the lines of my arms down to my hands so that she was guiding my whole torso with her own. She moved my arms in a stroking motion. "Paddle your legs too," she told me, and I did as she instructed, and to my surprise, I managed to stay afloat. She held me in the water. After a while, she gently eased off of me and let me try to cut through the water on my own, and I immediately started flailing again. I could feel the panic building in my chest and my breath caught in my throat. "Don't worry," she said, pulling me back into her arms. "Rome wasn't built in a day." She steadied me, finally guiding me onto my back, where she held me up in the water like one holds a child. The sun was nearly gone, and its dying embers reflected off of her wet hair as she cradled me in her arms. Her blue eyes looked almost red in the light. She was a nymph of fire, submerged in murky waters, and she was smiling.
Repose.
Respite.
Rot.
I swear, the world ends behind that oak tree. The fence and the mold, the fence and the anthill mountains, and there the sun sets, and it seems it always will. Elizabeth lays her head on the grass, onto me, freshly cut, always smelly, and she gives a breath to the world. And like the sun, my face burns and blinds me. That 12-year-old rush, that blood, that gush, that blush, under the eyes, underneath me. I notice I'm lobster red. And I notice love knots in her hair, so my hand drags them out. She didn't care. She doesn't care. She won't watch the trees smile for her and watch the birds sing.
Isn't it sweet?
I watched. I want it all to me, myself, and I. Watch her. Watch her. I watch her trace bluebirds with her bluebird eyes. I watch her reflections kissing the sky. And I watch a static bluebird flutter and revel inside. And I hear the birds singing.
I hear the birds singing up in the dogwoods of the concrete park. Two people sit and laugh so hard it seems fake, like their actors told to sit and look happy together. They eat fortune cookies like a meal and feed ducks crummy leftovers before they walk over to the cemetery at noon. By the way he looked at her, it almost felt like he meant it. She wanted to puke behind a trash can off to her left. Instead, she smiles. Later, they both learn that sometimes we grasp onto anything which holds us. In the aftermath, she'd tell him how she meant everything, and he'd only managed to say,
I didn't.
apathy, sweet apathy. It must be like drowning.
It must be like drowning. This gaping, mouth gasping, begging me, mustn't it? The overwhelming full weighing on your lungs. This rapid falling and rising chest must just be swelling tides, or heart palpitations like crashing waves. Love, I could make it pause mid-beat. My hands roaming over you could be CPR if you let me break your ribs. I could start your heart anew. The soft column of your throat, upturned chin, bitten lip must be you before me, slice of moonlight on cotton sheets. Breaths coming shallow from lungs, choking on me, every kiss from the twist of your collarbone to aching jaw must feel like weakening, your body losing will to resist. And when my kiss falls like petals on fresh snow to your skin, you'll feel the rings of your trachea crack, collapse inward with delicious snaps. You'll pull and press me, wordless in that state. Let my mouth rest above yours just enough to feel the last trail of breath slip from your lips and land on mine.
something so beautiful it tore through everything. This was it. This was the fall of grace that would end it all, that would strike into the heart of man with the weight of everything, break off into his chest, and bring him to his knees once and for all. Pepsi at the ice skating rink, you and me, you are me, this first day of fall. This was it. This had to be it. I could die right here at the second and have not a single regret or longing or wish for the rest of my reincarnations. I would smile so long I forgot how not to smile. I would cry enough tears to drown a scaly fish, but only with tears of joy. I want everything to cease except this. No more moments are needed. I now know the secret, the blessed truth.
Things that break. 1. You could compare me to bubble gum, chewed up and stretched until there's no flavor left to enjoy. You might say I'm a hair tie, pulled until the thin synthetic fibers snap from the pressure. You could even say I'm the elastic waistband in your childhood jeans, buttons cutting into the sensitive skin above your hip bones. 2. Windows, plates, hair, nails, teeth, SD cards, computer screens, bones, skin, headphones, laminate countertops, your mother's wedding china, patience, bricks, paintings, printers, umbrellas, clocks, Egos, eggshells, porcelain antlers, a crucifix, silence, hearts, whiskey bottles, dams, vases, the atom. 3. I saw a t-shirt online that read, "Still bisexual after all these years. I can't imagine being so open about something I'm not even ashamed of." 4. You're beautiful. Pale eyes sunken into smoky bags, piercing my body and dismantling me sliver by sliver until I have no more secrets. You evoke a passion within me I am not yet ready to understand. 5. Graphene, diamond's less cultured cousin. She's only 1 atom thick without any diets. It's easier to break steel than her. 6. The sensitive skin above your hip bones stretches across grasslands, a shallow valley between 2 snow-tipped mountains. 7. Televisions, pill bottles, light bulbs, lava lamps, windshields, mugs, bookbindings, stomach linings, gumball machines, sculptures, shower doors, drywall, floorboards, phones, DVDs, dance shoes, regular shoes, a cast, crutches, more bones, mountaintops, Kit Kat, 70s wallpaper, snow globes, the earth itself. 8. When you're young, you think everyone will live forever, but with each passing year, someone else you love dies. 9. A volcano couldn't melt a tungsten wedding ring, but if you drop it on the ground, it will shatter. 10. You wrap your arms around me. Cold fingers melt into my ribs and turn to a mist that blinds me as I try to call your name, but I already gave you my voice long ago.
Focal point. I am a sketch of myself, perched on paper too white. I am what others wish to see in that moment, rough and rushed around the edges, never looking quite the way I should. There is nothing finalized by that simple graphite grip, all ready to be wiped away next month to try again without much more than a smudge. Today someone made that shadow a little bit darker, but it still seemed out of place. So maybe we try something lighter instead, over and over until the paper is worn thin with this inability to settle on one final design. The paper curls up in tiny cigarettes, and I think each one takes a couple minutes off life, if I remember correctly. And I wonder just how long I have before they figure out this drawing is too damaged to ever actually look halfway decent and move on to the next one. I don't mind. I imagine how beautiful that might look with the right subject now that the techniques have been perfected on the draft.
Party favors. I'm a vegan eating a Cool Ranch Dorito, and I don't feel like letting myself regret the dry milk ranch powder coating my tongue, because it's been years since I've tasted something so treacherous, though I can't help the guilt. Blue light hits me in the eyes in the dark, in the basement, as I watch rich kids swirling their tears down the toilet, down the drain, down the way. Tall, blonde, skinny boy in caveman costume looks at me out of the corner of his eye with his girlfriend hanging off of his arm, and I pretend like I don't see him looking, but here I am, seeing. I go outside and sit in a chair, so close to the flames that I feel the blue coming up off the flames. Smoke blows up into my face, burns my eyes, stains my hair so it won't wash out for weeks, for months. I see. I'm seeing. Girl number 1 rips herself inside out for someone who lives continents away. And Caveman's girlfriend tells me she knows it won't last once they graduate. And girl number 3 leaves early, and I never see girl number 4's face, because she sits on a boy's lap the whole time. But girl number 5 whispers to me that said boy, quote, isn't interested. Caveman lays on the pebbled ground looking up into somewhere else, as girl number 1 tells him how he can go to France, all expenses paid. But there are tears in his eyes as he says, I know I'm not going anywhere. I can't feel my fingers, so I go back inside, and it smells familiar, warm like someone I used to know. I'm suddenly aware that this is the home of a stranger. New brown-haired boy has arrived. He's all sad owl eyes behind his glasses. He's on the phone. The streamers taped onto the ceiling look like they're wilting. There are family pictures on the side table. The lights go from red to blue, blue to red, and Owl Eyes puts his head in his hands. Caveman comes in stumbling. I notice how stick-like his legs are when he leans down and starts talking to the owl. Don't play with your head, man. Don't let it get to you. I find drinks over at the countertop and I down something raspberry. Girl number 6 starts screaming over by the oven, pouring water onto it. Steam rises. Someone had turned the stove on, burning the bottom off the bag of Doritos, blackening the chips to coal. It smoked up the whole basement. People came inside to see. Half of the girls had camp in the bathroom to sob and vomit, and I sit. And I watch, and I see these boys wanting to sob and vomit. And seeing them want to sob and vomit over girls that are sobbing and vomiting in the bathroom makes me want to follow suit. So I helped girl number 6 clean up the soggy black Doritos from the sink. Drew Barrymore screams on screen in a horror movie as girl number 6 hands girl number 7 a glass of water. But that gets puked in too. In the blue light coloring my corneas, I see. I'm seeing. I see you.
Self. When I first met my black, she was creeping around my room, waiting for me to notice her. She was running her heavy hands through my hair when I asked why it wasn't straight. She massaged my grandmother's hands when they were finished braiding my hair, but she disappeared when I permed it and cries with every stroke of the straightening comb. Black cannot live without fried chicken and collard greens. She drowns herself in mac and cheese. These days, Black is loud and rambunctious. She manages to force her way onto my tongue with every conversation. She was always talking about how the pharaohs were black, and so were the ancient Israelites. She cries every time a black boy dies, cries every time a child is born without their father. Black is bold and ambitious, always looking back so she can look forward. When my writer entered the picture, she was overshadowed by Black. She thought she had nothing to say, that the lives and identities within her should be buried and forgotten. Writer is so shy, always hiding in her corner, holding her papers tight to her chest. Yet Writer is so strong, so brave to share her life with others. But sometimes Writer stands on the shoulders of Black so they can reach the cookie jar of their imagination. Writer is constantly putting Black on a high horse, polishing her like the Oscar she has snubbed every year. Writer grows bolder every year. She grows like redwoods, ever higher. But bisexual is complicated. She does not share space with Black and Writer. She only comes out when with her friends, only to be shoved back into the closet by Black. When this happens, she wishes she could stay forever, even though it's far too cold for anyone to survive. At least she wouldn't have to hear Black say she doesn't exist, or that she is the very embodiment of lust. Bisexual is confused. She can't decide who she likes more, so she says both. Yet even as she says this, she is still in denial. She looks so normal, yet Black is repulsed by her. And Ryder would like to point out to Black should know how it feels to be oppressed just for being you, but she can't bring herself to do it. Ryder and Black are simply scared of what they do not know. They do not know how to process her. Black is too loud to hinder anyone but herself. Ryder can only hear one at a time, and Bai is waiting on her turn to be heard.
"30 days. 30 days to myself. 30 days to forget about you. 30 days to stand freeze tag, to catch my breath. 30 days till I have to talk to you again. Till I have to talk about us again. 30 days till I have to be near you. 30 days till I have to lie to you. 30 days for us to get our shit together. 30 days for me to get my shit together, or 30 days to stay the same. And 30 days later, I still can't make you happy. And 30 days later, that still has to come from you. And 30 days later, because it doesn't, it hasn't, it won't. And for 30 days, you'll badger me, you'll beg to see me and ask what I'm feeling. 30 days ago, you told me you wanted me, you owned me, you loved me. And 30 days ago, I lied and told you I did too. And after 30 days, I'll forget you think I'm addicted. And after 30 days, I'll forget you're the problem. And after 30 days, I'll feel better.
I once planted a lemon tree in my backyard. It was right before we moved. I knew the lemon tree, still curled in its plastic pot, would not be taken over to the new house. It sat on our front porch untouched for weeks. I dragged it into the backyard and pulled up the red earth with bare hands, making just a big enough hole to fit the little lemon tree sprig into. I pressed the fragile roots of the tree into the rich ground with my hands and silently prayed that it would survive. I prayed that I could save something growing.
Rain as molasses. She is sticking leaves to my throat like dark chocolate, like promises of I'll see you in the aftertaste of your dreams. She is tracing the windows with silhouettes of hearts, another answer I did nothing to deserve. I am struggling not to gnaw at the threads of my subconsciousness. I wish we could share a red umbrella. I am rippling the grottos of my subconscious mind, the places thought should not touch.
Dewberries. Do not bury me beneath a blanket of daisy and dewberry when you find my body cold. My petals were shorn long ago, but this stem still seeks an open sky, a field of grass, the hawk's eyrie. I shall instead end up below, but I beg of you, leave me these moments, when the ground was damp and I was merry.
Quicksand. Walking the surf in winter in cheap floral foam sandals, she stole her little moment in time by eating up the seconds in a plastic spoon, siphoning the salt water, pruning her fingertips in frigid drops. A dead flounder, half buried in the sand, rib bones exposed, peeling eyeballs, met her peripheral. But all she saw out in front of her was the cold sun gleaming off the boats in harbor, wound and ready, waiting for spring like groundhogs.
Homemade honey mustard. I tipped the jar on its side and watched, bug-eyed, as it folded in the bee butter. My mother watches me from her perch across the room, surprised, disgust filling her face. My world twists, and on its side I rewind, reminded how my mother hates honey mustard.
Shiva, god of destruction, I have begun to eat myself whole. I have come to devour order and end life. I have wiped the slate to hold something new.
Lipstick compliments. I like my mirrors round, blinking. When I stand in them, I want to see his opinions already written there in cherry red.
Luck, or a pocket full of privilege. All you need is luck, determination, drive. Anyone can make it in America, as long as you work hard, have dedication, and burn in the sunlight.
Quiz! What is your sexuality? Would you kiss a member of the same sex? Does the timbre of her voice slip like caramel into every chamber of your heart? Does it change the way it beats?
Do you think you are asexual? Have you delved into the dredges of every answer you could find because missing feels normal to you?
Have you ever fantasized about a member of the same sex? When, for a moment, you let yourself imagine it's her lying next to you in the golden morning light, does it feel like guilty pleasure? Does it feel like truth?
Which of these body parts most attracts you? Which of these body parts defines you? Pick one. Pick none. No. The key is folded somewhere under the concrete tongue of a man, of a woman, of an arch. The arch of his hip bone, the arch of her chest, the arch your lies about nothingness will die under. Understanding will dawn on you like church bells, and you'll realize no bodiless woman could ever walk in white.
Which of these body parts most attracts you? Dissect her. Pull the sunshine out of her laugh, pull the ocean out of her eyes. Sort out her sense of humor, her memories, and her dreams into something more digestible, something labeled. Dissect her until you find which part it is that gnaws so sweetly at your gut. Take a knife to it with shaky hands and cut it out. Pick him to pieces and collect in your arms everything that made you feel loved. Bury the rest. How often do you dream about girls? Is the thought of her the only thing worth holding on to in all of this?
Is the thought of something warm the only thing that keeps us afloat? Aren't you scared of sinking? Aren't you cold?
Do you think you're gay? Does it keep you up at night? Does the thought That question linger like secondhand smoke in your hair? Are you reminded every time you breathe? Are you choking on all this uncertainty? Doesn't this feel like love?
Do you think you're asexual? Did it hit you like ice water down your throat one night? Like recognition? Have you clutched that monochrome and purple so tight it bled into your chest and marked you, finally, as something whole? Isn't that what you needed? Do you think you're gay?
Do you think I could have loved him like that? Could have held him along with everything else so precious inside that weakly beating heart? Do you suppose anything hetero can still have a pulse if I birth something sapphic? Could a love like that be real? Do you think you're asexual?
Have I lived long enough? Do I know enough now to justify my existence? Have I torn the nerves from my skin inch by inch, or did someone else tear them out for me? Have I properly lobotomized the parts of me that every human needs and replaced them with what I need?
Could a love like that be real? Do you look gay? Let me see your nails.
Let me find pink fingerprints on your skin.
Let me see your snapbacks.
Let me open up your empty heart and pour mine in.
Let me see them cuff jeans. Let me uncuff them. Let me pull out that tongue that has kissed only a man. Let me cut it out, sew in something that knows only the taste of a woman.
Let me see your blood in the streets, your heart in their hands. Prove to me that you aren't one of them.
What would you like to be? Happy? Click here to find out your results. Congratulations, you are 50-50. You are 50% what you know and what you feel. You are half down the middle, so conveniently divided like cake. Don't you want to be consumed? You are 50% still acceptable. 50% more at risk, one half a target, the other a dream of something too sweet to taste.
Congratulations! You are 40% asexual and 20% just confused and 15% too young yet to know your own being. The remaining 25 exist in a vacuum above the exosphere, far out of touch, with heart, with normal. Why can't you just love like the rest of us? The Louisiana Unborn Child Protection from Dismemberment Abortion Act, 2016. Mike Johnson will not let his uterus be invaded so. From his uterus burgeon two perfect, glowing daughters, and his uteri inside them will in turn be made to vessel. No child of his will invite seaweed and curette blades inside his cervix, tearing her baby from its God-given mother like she has a right. That baby is no baby of his, but rest assured until it passes through like natural, that baby will be safe inside this congressman's painless womb. Rest assured. After all, Representative Johnson has birthed countless children through his many vulvas or perhaps labias, all without a single warning of sickness or ugly, jagged scar. Representative Johnson has populated the world full of babies who surely grew into Yale graduates or the scientist who cured cancer. Yes, he takes all this ownership for their sakes. And when these pale-skinned offspring all amass intangibly to thank him, Representative Johnson will smile, hearty and proud and curved as his rib that birthed creation.
Crimson concrete. A body is laying in the streets of the Bronx, New York City, New York, A body, a brown body, littered with holes, crimson blood seeping out, staining clothes that were once vibrant blue jeans, yellow off-brand polo shirt, and worn shoes, now a canvas for red paintballs. The body will be moved, the crowd of people like vultures chased away, but still stopping to see the life essence soaking into the cold pavement where it is not supposed to be. No, it should still be inside the body, coursing through its veins like water to a tree, warming the flesh and forcing vitality through arteries. No, the cold pavement should not have stolen the warmth, not have robbed this boy of his life. The cold pavement, greedy for life, greedy to be fed. Police showed up again, robbery, armed. For some reason, everybody wanted a piece of them, as usual. Didn't see what happened until it was over. It was like gunshots, then screaming. All of a sudden, there's a kid on the ground, bleeding. Yeah, not sure what happened, but the kid was dead before we knew it. Days later, at the body's funeral, family and people who knew him paid their respects, said farewell to the body, now filled in with only God knows what. With the fissures that used to mar the body's brown skin, this body looks different from the one on the street. This body does not look mangled, and is not twisted in a strange, savage way of an unexpected death. This body that cousins weep over, preachers give sermons and eulogize to, is innocent and pristine. The face of this body is not twisted in pain and confusion. It is a solemn and peaceful face, like that of a sleeping lamb, the face of an incomplete dream. The smells and sounds of the crowded emergency room failed to capture the mother of the body's attention. Your son, they told her, your son has been shot, ma'am. Shot. The word rings like a bell, like the sound of 1,000 sirens. Shot, shot. Her son said the word often when talking about basketball. Shot. Surely not her son. It could not be possible, not feasible. Shot. She thought she heard her voice calling out to her, the body echoing, see you later, see you later, see you later.
Autistic kid in the back of the class. 1. Betrayal is a thrumming pulse inside my head. My wrong head. I know that now, but I didn't know when they knew, and why didn't they tell me? At 12 years old, I have not been exposed to autistic stereotypes. I have not learned that some mothers would rather risk their infant's longevity than chance her developing autism. And I have not seen the stickers that stain bumpers proclaiming that mothering a child with this sort of difficulty is worthy of some recognition. Stickers that are not made for mothers whose children have ADHD. My only exposure has been a few words off a doctor's lips and my parents telling me they didn't want me to know. I cry without understanding what it is to be autistic. Just knowing it's bad enough that I am.
I'm sorry if my body offends you. This vast white plain that you are just dying to conquer. I should have been more considerate. Let me tear away my skin piece by piece. Let me drown in the sweat that pools in my collarbones as I pull on layer after layer of protection from you. I am so sorry that my confidence offends you. Let me sew bits of denim and polyester to my limbs so there is no chance that anything will slip out of place. Let me break my body into something that you no longer have to think of as human. And I am so sorry that I expected you to respect me, because so few people are born with self-control, and it is impossible to learn.
Two, it's spending 3 years trying to find that place on a person's nose where they think you're looking them in the eye. It's spending 2 more years trying to remind yourself to actually use it.
It's being told, I notice you don't make a lot of eye contact. 3. My psychologist, when I tell her, has the grace to act surprised. Or at least, that's what I tell myself I see as I bury my face in her collie's fur. Abby is the best part of these sessions, and I try to focus on her and not the voice telling me that I'm not even a good autistic, that she's had children come in who can recite the periodic table. And I wonder exactly what part of that is supposed to comfort me. 4. Accidental fire adds to burden of family who has helped son deal with autism. Candidate for Paris Town Hall hailed for dignified response to query on autism. Here's how much autism can cost American families.
The houses in the city are dying. I can see their skeletons fallen on the street. There are calls to the city government, and everyone I meet tells me that it's a damn shame. But we all sit and watch as the houses are gutted, murdered, poisoned. This used to be such a diverse city, a woman at Publix tells me. Don't they know that they're killing the houses? Soon it'll be all condos and mansions and gaudy duplexes. People cry over the ghosts of their houses, pick up the bones and take them somewhere else, hoping to find new bodies for them. You know, a man at the post office says to the teller, I'm glad those houses are on their way out. I have family in town. My kids don't need that kind of influence. They're just old shacks. What are they adding to the city anyways? If you can't survive on your own, maybe you don't deserve to at all. The houses in the city bend their legs and feel their knees buckle beneath them. Their skin tears off and peels in piles around the neighborhoods. Houses lie dead on the street. People kick their corpses out of the way.
Five, I want to be able to peel back my skin, my flesh, my skull, until you can peer in and see that my brain works too. That an autistic man running for town hall is just a man running for town hall. My hands grip and pull, and I feel seams splitting into splashes of ink before my brain pries my fingers away from the wound. I am not brave enough to be Sisyphus, pushing again and again uphill, only to fall back. But in your eyes, perhaps I am Loki. I can't kill, so I trick the blind into following me, into wielding a spear of kisses that mean nothing. You would see me pinned to stone, but you would be the serpent and drip small bits of venom upon a naked chest that spoke only of a beating heart. Maybe the world would sit at my side, but the bowl is never big enough to catch all of the venom you drip, and my heart burns as it seeps through.
My grandmother lies dying in the hospital. I was washed in something too clean, something strong enough to strip me of my hurt, my human. They presented me without a blemish to harm her, as God intended. Her room was caving in on itself. The floorboards were sinking. I know. The nurses said it in whispers. She's been here too long. Other patients, yes, so much worse. Critical. She is dragging them down with her. She's not even there. Brain activity. She isn't alive. My dad asks his mom to blink if she can hear him. To blink again if she loves him, and knows he loves her too. In the silence, we watch her eyes open and shut. And I know this is all he will have left to hold. I hold my breath when I look at her, sink to the ground outside her room, and the doctor tells me, this pain won't last. My grandmother lies dying in the hospital, and he can tell me for certain that this will all be over soon. He should know. He performs this show every week. He is rehearsed to perfection. My grief, his standing ovation, he promises me that he will be there. To slip my grandmother into a body bag, he will be there. To collect the insurance money, he is waiting, hand on the plug, ready to pull.
Six. My mother tells me there's this show that's supposed to be good about an autistic doctor. And part of me thinks that's the only reason she mentions it, but I find it and watch it with her, bristling at the parts that are so wrong, where they make him act nonsensically and brush it off as him being unable to understand people, when no, that's not how it works. And why bother with the show if you can't get the gimmick right? Because we all know what that is, really. Because a show about someone who is introverted and reserved and intellectual won't sell unless you put a label on it. 7. It's weighing every sentence 5 times because you can't trust your judgment. It's deciding not to take that chance and staying silent. And it becomes realizing your lips have sealed themselves together again during lunch.
A teacher asks the class to include our pronouns in our introductions. 1. I remember the names of exactly 2 of my preschool classmates. The first, Joey, I remember because his name also meant baby kangaroo. That fact was a marvel to me and the other 4-year-olds in my class, including Joey himself, and delighted us all to no end. The second is Riley. Riley had short, dark brown hair and a round face that I would watch as I rolled his name around in my head, catching it from every angle. Riley. A boy's name or a girl's name. A marvel. 2. An excerpt from William and the Werewolf, an originally French poem first translated into English around 1350. Each man hurried till they drew near where William and his darling were lying together. 3. I met a non-binary person for the first time in freshman year of high school. The they-thems felt strange on my tongue at first, but not unfamiliar, like bones setting into their proper place. Though they were devoid of the quality I'd come to expect from everyone I met, they seemed complete without it, or even all the more complete for its absence. It was as though I was simply viewing them through a different lens, filtering out the blues and pinks that clung to everyone else I knew. Strangely, I found I was accustomed to that view. 4. I hated bows. I hated pink. I hated girl because girlishness was something to be hated. My female elementary school classmates were mocked for speaking in high pitches, for the likes that interspersed their sentences, for knowing the words to every Justin Bieber song. I told my parents I would never get married. I hated the idea of being someone's wife. I balled up each of these magenta threads and tossed them aside. I think, out of spite, they gnarled themselves around my identity and twisted it into something unrecognizable. 5. William Shakespeare, A Comedy of Errors, Act 4, Scene 3. There's not a man I meet but doth salute me as if I were their well-acquainted friend. 6. The idea that I might not be a girl first surfaced on my consciousness at 15. Though I paid it little attention at first, it remained stubbornly in the back of my mind, varying in intensity from one month to the next. When my mother told me that I was a good sister, or I was reminded that I was my father's daughter, it seemed to sear inside my skull, urging me to spit those labels out like poison. When the topic of women's rights burned to the forefront of news headlines, close enough for me to feel its heat against my stomach, that idea nearly flickered out. Personal preference suffocated beneath necessity. At 16, I told my brother that I was almost certain I was okay with being a girl. A few months later, I told my friends that I really would prefer if they used gender-neutral words to refer to me, at least for a while. This spinning cycle, stretched out for 2 years now, began to feel endless. The idea still stuck to my brain, forever oscillating. 7. Why do I hate it? Why do wife and girl feel to me like acidic impossibilities? Why have these pink threads tangled themselves around my ribs, twirling gracefully into each bleeding artery, each heart chamber that beats and reeks with femininity? Why can I feel this swallowed glitter scratching at my trachea, these delicate ribbons forced down my throat years ago, pushing against the chest they've laid claim to? What parts of this hatred are my own? 8. King James, Deuteronomy 17. Then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shalt stone them with stones till they die. 9. At 17, I thought that perhaps the dizzying cycle of my identity could be explained with a new label, gender fluid. I had finally started to realize that the untinted lens I had viewed my non-binary classmates with was the same familiar glass through which I had always viewed myself. Still, a hint of rose remained in my vision, ebbing and flowing as I hesitated to cut it away entirely, so I decided on a plan to correct this indecision. I would make a beaded bracelet, black, purple, white, and yellow, the colors of the non-binary flag, and wear it whenever I couldn't bear the thought of my female designation. The first day of my senior year, I wore it to school. I never took it off. 10. I hate only the pink that was forced into me. I have finally begun to extract it from my capillaries, scratching it from my bones, rinsing my eyes of the girl I was raised as. With every stranger, every friend who insists on she, her when I've told them otherwise, every sneering comment that they, them can't be used that way never has been. Every declaration from my father that I should behave like the sweet, demure little girl that I once was, this pink slaps against my skin and smears. But now this identity, this tiny piece of me tacked onto the end of every introduction that I fought for 3 years just to know, has given me the means to wash the pink clean. I won't let it make its way in again. 11. My name is Emily Wolford. I'm from Alabama. I enjoy writing and playing video games, and my pronouns are they, them.
Lockdown. The broken voices and silence. Shaken people crouch, crowd the painted and smooth cinder block. The stench of fear smothering them completely. Wet gasps, muffled behind hands, can hear the foul words slip between the air particles. What did I see? What did I hear? What did I feel? What did I hear? What did I do? What did I hear? What did I hear? The whisper. The ellipses stuck to lips, wet with devil dog hunger, required bloodlust. Quench the thirst. My simple body, spaghettis against the air, and breath becomes complicated. Footsteps echo like gunshots in the halls. Hear the handle shake, and I slip into the cracks in the wall. Chameleon myself into invisibility. Another number. with bruises and bite marks. I will strand bits of body and bits of hair, stitched by words that have dripped from me like honey.
Like honey, I will leave behind my powdered mold, a golden glimmer down the throat of a passing stranger, now not so stranger, later maybe stranger again. I am a word you savor.
I am a word you savor. When the sands of time have slipped through my fingers, and my body has become dust carried by desert gales, every flavor left lingering on your tongue, etched in your heart, in the universe.
In the universe, the strong and gentle smell of gratitude bathes me in its midnight wake as I give everything back. I lay my head down to rest and sink deeper into beautiful mortality. My pillow will always be warm.
Warm words stick to your tongue after you have swallowed them. Leave a sweet taste in your mouth and fill your intestines like a balloon, lifting you into the sky to become something new.
Something new, blooming small and hopeful, roots stretching into all that came before it, arms lifting into all that will be. I will leave an ember burning, something warm to light you through the dark.
Through the dark, there's light. With passion and talent, success succeeds. The universe said so. She said, don't be ambivalent, be certain. Wait your turn, they'll pull back the curtain.
The curtain of stars burns my fingertips, melting my flesh as the memory of me seeps into ancient earth. Everything I once was is pulled through tree roots, leaving only an impression of love.
Love. Spoken and unspoken. Shouted in naive certainty, or perhaps a shy creeping afterthought. A spark of unfathomable sincerity in the cosmic strip of things.
Things are strewn about the desk, and there has always been something dramatic about a blank white page. But I have claimed this piece, written my name in the corner with my little scrawl and pen.